So I wanted to do something that you guys all know a little something about. So I picked Scrum. It's a really good topic. I know it's really the focus of our company. So you're going to learn something that you never knew about Scrum today, I can guarantee you. It'll also explain a lot about any mental problems I have. Okay? So the origin of Scrum. It actually started way back in 1823, in case you didn't know. Way before any kind of development platform was out there or anything like that. There was a guy named William Webb Ellis who played a version of soccer at a school called Rugby School, England. And one day a ball was kicked to him and he actually picked it up and started running with it. And when he did, he invented the game of rugby. And you all think of Scrum as development sophomore processes. I think of Scrum of a game that I played for 14 years and played all over the world. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a primer. I like to spread something that I enjoy, and I think everybody would enjoy that they don't know something about. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro to the game of rugby and what it's evolved into today. So let's take a quick look, just as an intro here. Hopefully this will work. That's illegal, by the way. You can't do that. So that's just a little flavor of what it is, and who's seen a game of rugby? Anybody? All right, excellent. So I've struggled for a long time in explaining what rugby is and how it's played. And appropriate to this room full of people, leave it to the gamers. I had no idea what Travis was talking about, anything of that game that he was talking about. But the gamers actually created probably one of the best, simplest explanations of rugby ever because they were doing it for, I think, the EA Sports game version of this. And so I have a little video of that, which I'm going to show you in a minute. First of all, some of the similarities in the rules really relate to the origin of American football. Rugby existed before American football. And it's kind of the parent of American football. The similarities, you gotta run. You gotta make in essence, a touchdown. And it's so similar that the word touchdown actually comes directly from rugby. In rugby, when you run into the end zone, you have to touch the ball down to score. It's not called a touchdown though, which is kind of funny. But in football, they've retained that word touchdown. In rugby, it's called a try. It's worth 5 points. The conversion after, worth 2, which you'll see in a minute. Which is called the conversion, just like football. So a total of 7 points, ironically, just like football. The interesting thing is if you run into the end zone, unlike football, and you cross into the end zone, and somebody picks you up and carries you back out, no points. And I will age myself here, but in 1987, I went to the World Cup of Rugby in New Zealand. And I wasn't playing in it, I was spectating, and there was a player from ASU there. He was playing for the US national team. He changed the course of all of rugby. And a lot of people don't know this, but there was a guy from France running for a try, and he was on a breakaway, and Ray Nelson, that was this person's name from ASU, he was chasing him. And he had played rugby only since college. In high school, he was an all-star baseball player. And as the guy was running, what we used to do in rugby is we would run and we would touch the ball down just on the run. And as the person went to touch the ball down, Ray Nelson was running, and he actually slid like a baseball slide, and right before the ball touched down, he kicked it out of his hands. No try. From that point on, virtually every player who now scores in the game of rugby, they run, you might have seen this, and they hold onto the ball and they dive, so nobody can stop their downward pressure. So he literally changed the game of rugby on how people score touchdowns. It's kind of a funny side story about Arizona. A lot of similarities in language. The line of scrimmage in football is actually called the line of scrummage in rugby. So there's all these ties to American football. A little bit about the field of play. This is kind of an interesting dynamic, which you'll see in a minute when I show you a little bit more. But this is the outer perimeter of a football field. This is the outer perimeter of a rugby field. And as you can see, it is 45% wider and about 10% longer. The width of the field really creates a lot of room for people to run, and it's really what makes the game kind of fun. How many players? Anybody know? No? 15 guys per team. So 30 guys on the field at once, one referee. That's why you see a little of the... You're not allowed to punch. Now it's really been cleaned up. The two touch judges, the side judges, just like soccer, they now play a very important part. They didn't used to, but now they almost work as a three-man team, three-person team, actually. Two 40-minute halves, so very similar to soccer. There's a sevens variation, and this is an interesting thing that you guys will all see in the next year or two. So this is traditional rugby. In the sevens variation, I think 3-on-3 basketball. So instead of having 15 guys on a team, you have 7 guys on a team. And they're playing only 7-minute halves. It is so exhausting, I can't even tell you. You're playing on a full 70-meter wide field, 100 meters long. You have 7 guys on a team. It is just flat out running for 14 minutes. The most I've done football, wrestling, MMA, rugby. That's probably why I'm screwed up. But all these things, and I can tell you not one of them can compare, even rugby, to the sevens variation. It is the most tiring sport on the planet. It will be in the Olympics in 2016 in Brazil. It's always played in a tournament format because the game's only 14 minutes long. So if you go to a weekend, they play them in a weekend format, and that's what it'll be in the Olympics. It is an awesome sporting event. They play international matches. Every 14 minutes, two new teams come out. And they play, or every 20 minutes or so, they play, the next team, next, and it just rolls on for 3 hours. And then the next day they have a round robin, and the next day they play all the finals and everything else. It's a great spectacle. So you get players or fans from all over the world, because in one 3-hour block, you might have 20 countries playing in that 3 hours. So you get people from all over the world. Okay, I'm going to use this term somewhat liberally. All right, smaller and faster players in sevens. You have a lot of open room to run. So because of that, you get a lot of guys that are what I would call smaller. I was very small for my position in rugby. I played at about 6 foot, 215, and I was considered too small for my position. But sevens, you get a lot of guys right around that range, 6'1", 6'2", 220 pounds. That's about the average size of a sevens player. Okay, here's the gamer's explanation. Let's see if this explains it, makes it clear to everybody. I was going to do this, by the way, but I don't have this good English accent, so this is the left.
The game starts with one team kicking the ball downfield. The opponents then try to gather the ball into their possession. The team in possession of the ball are the attackers. The attacking team aim to touch the ball to ground in the opponent's goal area, scoring a try for 5 points. They can then attempt a conversion kick for an additional 2 points before play restarts with a kick-off to the other team. The attackers can also choose to kick a drop goal for 3 points instead of going for a try. To get the ball to the opponent's try line, the attacking team runs with the ball, passes the ball backward between players, or kicks the ball forward to gain territory. The defending team attempt to restrict the attacker's forward progress and gain possession of the ball by tackling or forcing and winning set plays. After a tackle, a ruck can form. This is a power contest where the teams compete for possession of the ball in play. After a minor infringement, such as a knock-on or a forward pass, a scrum will form. Here, the
There's
ball
scrum.
from both
See,
teams
top
form
it.
packs and use their full power to contest the ball. If the ball is kicked into touch, then the ball is put back into play in a line-out, where the ball is thrown straight between 2 lines of players from each team who jump to catch and win the ball. Play may also be stopped for a major infringement when there is no advantage to the offended team. Play will be restarted with a free kick or a penalty. Rugby
So that's it. EA Sports in 90 seconds or so put together all the rules of rugby in that. And that's really, I mean, there's some nuances and things like that, but that is pretty much the basics of rugby. And so a few things. First, any questions about kind of the overall rules? Yes?
So the point of a scrum is then that they put the ball like in between the two teams, and then so what do you do with the ball if everyone's pushing against each other?
That's a good question. So in a true scrum, you get the 8 guys. There's actually an advantage to who puts the ball in the tunnel. So there's a tunnel. It's like a face-off in hockey, kind of. So it's a minor infraction, it's a restart, but there's a definitive advantage to the team that puts the ball in. And here's why. The person putting the ball in, there's the person in the very middle is called a hooker, but the person in the middle is a hooker because they actually hook the ball back with their foot. And so they go off a hand signal, and so they can actually get the advantage by telling the person putting in when they're going to stick their foot up. You can't stick your foot up till the ball comes in, so it's a timing thing. They just hook it back and it comes back to their team. And so it's a way of restarting the game after a minor infraction. Yeah?
So in that graphic, when they showed the guy throwing the ball back and bounce or whatever, they literally lift themselves up to try to block it?
Yes, and you can lift all the way, and you should see some of these guys. I don't have any of these videos, but in every game, I've got some great pictures. I just went down to the ASU U of A game not too long ago. I have a great picture of one of the guys from U of A. He's 6'6", and he's being lifted, and his top of his hand is probably, I don't even know, it's 14 feet in the air. I mean, he is so far up, and yeah, they're just very well trained, and they just push him up and lift him up as high as they can. So it's a timing thing too. Yeah.
So is it continuous gameplay, or are there like, the concept of downs or something?
No downs. Retaining possession is key. So what you want to do is drive forward, kick forward, but always retaining possession. It is continuous play. Even when the ball's kicked out of bounds, much like soccer, you can grab it up and throw it in. So if I kick it really long, they said you have to go where it went out of bounds, but it's not exactly true. If you're the receiving team on the ball and it's your ball, you can actually throw it in anywhere behind where it went out of bounds. So a lot of times it rolls, the guy just runs over, picks it up. He can even throw it into himself if he wants. So it's a very fast-paced game. Yep.
Does the referee facilitate like the scrum or turns of possession? Or?
The referee does. So if there's a minor infraction like a forward pass, he'll call a scrum, so you have a minor break. The teams will come together in a scrum, and when they come together, he actually has a very defined call that he'll make. And the reason being is because they did start to get some injuries as the players got bigger. The front row, there's 3 guys from each team. Those guys now average about 265 to 275 pounds each. But keep in mind, unlike football, the average rugby player runs about 6.5 miles per game. 6.5 miles per game. Their heart rate max is generally, for 59 of the 80 minutes, is above 90% of their max. So literally their work rate is incredibly high. You get some very large people that can run forever and run fast. And so it's really incredible to see how the game has evolved. In a minute, you're going to see kind of the next evolution of rugby, which is a person named Carlin Isles. Carlin Isles is an American track star who converted to rugby about 3 years ago. He's now on the U.S. national team. At one time, I think he was ranked 15th in the world in the 100-meter dash. And he plays sevens, so a lot of room for him to run, right? When he gets the ball, it's nearly impossible to track him down. And so now you've got this escalation of even speed and size. He's not a small guy in the sense of kind of build. He's only like 5'10", I think, but he's very well built. Okay, so let's take a look just real quickly, now that you know a little bit about it, how it looks in practice, just a few short clips here on how it's supposed to be played. It's not always played. This is like when it all comes together. So, oops. Let's see if I do that again here. Maybe. That guy's 6'4", 250 pounds. This is a very nice play here. He catches it, he passes to him, then he passes back to him and off to the races. A lot of speed now in the game. So there was a scrum up there at the top that started that. So that's kind of what that looks like. And then I'll run through real quick. Here's just a look at sevens. So the sevens variation, the scrum only has 3 guys per team because it's half the size of a regular team, right? Here's the person putting the ball in the tunnel, right? This person in the middle, that's the hooker. That's the opposing hooker. So they'll kind of push for the ball. By the way, this is Argentina against the U.S. here. The U.S. currently has 2 players on their sevens, their Olympic team, from the University of Arizona. So it's pretty impressive showing for U of A. Oops, go back one here. Just a quick snippet of a sevens game here. You can see how much more room there is and how wide open it is. You get to see Carlin Isles. He's right there on the end.
He took a look at a second at Sabado, and it's ripped out by Isles. Hey, I get the concept down. Little dummy and Isles. Hey, Carlin Isles. Can he go?
When he starts running now, people don't even chase him because he's so fast. It's really funny. It does. That's, by the way, that was the first try that he had scored in rugby. That is totally frowned upon in rugby, that little dance that he did there. You don't do that very often. Created a lot of ill will. So, so that's a summary now. I'll tell you a little bit about me so you can have a laugh. I even brought some pictures. So I started playing the game as a freshman at U of A. I played football through high school and everything else. Never had played, so I was brand new to the game. Eventually, my senior year made the Collegiate All-Americans, which was really fun. I got to tour with them. We played several international teams. Eventually made it to U.S. national team pool, which was awesome because I got to travel even more. And my goal was to make the 1995 World Cup. And I was right on track. I really felt like I was probably going to make it, even though I was really undersized. But then in 1993, sure enough, ACL tear. So I went through that, and it was very unfortunate. What was amazing is I played from 1984 to 1993 with no injuries. Played all over the world, played every weekend, literally, other than getting stitches maybe 20 times or 25 times, I don't know how many times. But I don't count that as an injury. 20 of them were in my head, 20 times in my head, but I did get stitches a lot. But other than that, I never missed a game for an injury in 9 years. And in fact, my ACL injury occurred when my own teammate bumped into me in training. You know how like you have those weird ACL. I was running, and I went to turn and make a pass, and he came running by me to kind of take what they call an offload, and he just nicked me, and it just boop, plunked my knee out. So, but I came back and played after that. I played here in Phoenix for Phoenix and Tempe. Tempe, very good team even till this day. This year they were the national runner-up in Division II, which is very high rugby in the U.S. Finally retired, got smart. I said I wouldn't play past the age of 30. That's when I stopped. I said, okay, that's it, I'm done. I'm old. So I stopped playing. Unfortunately, I'll go back to this. Unfortunately, I wasn't smart. I don't know why I did this, but then I went into MMA, and I tore my ACL again. So now I am definitely done, and now I'm coaching. So that's what a few pictures, and laughing is permitted, by the way. This is me right here in an actual scrum. These are all college pictures. I thought I'd take them back as far as I could. This is me in a scrum against San Diego State. San Diego State that year won the national championship. We beat them. You'll see a theme running here. We keep beating teams that win the national championship. This is the same game. I thought this was a funny picture. This was actually taken by somebody. The timing just got right where the motion, I'm like highlighted in an aura here, but it wasn't intentional. So I'm running into, that's a ruck, by the way. So that's when you form the ball, kind of an informal scrum to retain possession. This is me with a lot of hair right here. I look like that guy, but that's actually me. And keep in mind, this is my college team, right? So this isn't even like the high level. You can see, I'm not a very big guy compared to a lot of these guys. And so I was always playing undersized, but I did have the hair. So I was like Fletch in the movie. I was like 6'4", 6'8" with the hair. This is us playing against Air Force Academy. We beat them. They won the national championship. This is me right here, trying to get the ball. And last but not least, I think, a tackle against San Diego State in that same game too. That's me right there making the tackle. This guy's got the ball, you can see. Any questions? It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend, if anybody is ever interested, it's a lot of fun to watch. It's a great game to play. And the injury rate is very low. I shouldn't say very low. It's comparatively low to football. Concussion rate, they ran a massive study on it. A few people have asked this question. Last year they ran a study on it amongst 178 colleges in the US. It had virtually the same statistical rate as men's college soccer, which is only half of that of football. So, okay?